If you're asking the question, why is a pastor talking about Andrew Tate? The answer is that I've got teenage boys, and that's the way I even found out about the man. And so I have taken a deep dive. I'm going to share about a medium dive with you about that. First of all, you don't need me to tell you probably what's bad about the guy. I think he's got some actually pretty good ideas, but they manifest in some pretty evil ways. I don't think people are wrong who are saying he's misogynistic, but as I'm going to talk about in a minute, he also has some ways that he thinks about women and how to treat women that are at least a shadow of correct. And so I'm going to look at what I could pull out from his life and the things that I've seen from him that are actually maybe helpful. I'm not recommending that you go listen to him. I'm not recommending for sure that you go introduce him to your sons, but these are some things that I thought would be interesting to talk about based on why is it that he is so popular? Why is it that he is so successful in many ways? He's currently out of prison in Romania from the charges of sex trafficking. It has not been proven if he was actually sex trafficking, but if you know anything about him, you can imagine why he would be accused of that. But let me talk about some things that I've heard him say that I think are actually kind of helpful. And these are helpful not because Andrew Tate said it, but because they just are true things. And he at least believes a part of that. So the first thing that I've heard him say that I would echo and say he's correct is that money cannot buy happiness, but it's important. So a lot of times as Christians, we get into this idea that more money is not important, but it's actually very important because it's the way we get our values. A lot of times, a lot of our values, particularly the ones that keep us alive, like food and shelter, and the ones that keep our families alive. So money is not everything, but it is an important thing. I heard Naval Ravikant say, money does not solve all your problems, but it solves all your money problems. The fact is that in today's world, it's very easy to start a business and make money, especially because of the internet. And I've got a global business myself, writing, and at least half my clients are in other countries thanks to the internet. It's not hard to earn more money, and earning more money is necessary if you're going to feed your family and pay for your values. I heard him say, don't be just like the average guy. I think this is right. I have another video about not being ordinary, because what happens is we look around at what everyone else is doing and we try to do what everyone else is doing, and that leads to average. That leads to mediocre results in your life, and maybe that's all you want. But it's really not necessary to have a mediocre life. You can actually have a lot of what you want. You can obtain a lot of your values, but what generally needs to happen is you'll have to look at what 90% of people are doing and go the opposite direction. A pretty good example of this would be, what do you do for a living? Do you go to a big company and fit in somewhere in a job that you don't care that much about, but it's a steady paycheck and a steady set of benefits, and you know what you're going to get every month and you know what you're not going to get, and you live for the weekends and you live for your TV shows? That's pretty ordinary, and I call that ordinary because 80 or 90% of people do it that way. But as an image bearer of God, you're actually put here to manage. You're put here to create, and you're put here to bring order. And the best way to do that as an autonomous individual who takes personal responsibility for the life that God has given them is to grow in some skills that you can trade with your fellow man lovingly and honestly, value for value, and build your stewardship, build your management, build your kingdom as an image bearer of God, a delegated authority over all the things that he has put under your name to manage. Stewardship means that these things grow exponentially as a result of our faithfulness in those things. So yeah, don't just be the average guy. Until the average guy understands who we are as image bearers of God, I would love that. It would be a much, much better world. Don't let anybody tell you that we need some people to be average. We don't. If everybody is extraordinary and compared to the way people think today, it will change the world, I'm telling you. So he's right about that. Another thing I heard him say is if you're getting attention, you'll be able to make money. That is absolutely true. Attention is the currency these days. And this is another thing that's hard for us Christians to wrestle with because we want to be humble. But why am I making this video? One reason and one reason only: to get attention, because of another and better reason, which is to speak the truth into the world. But my big thing is writing. I want to write books, but I also know, because I'm a ghostwriter and I've written books for over 100 different people, that the ones that actually are able to get anybody out there to read their books are the ones who have built up an audience. They have gained some attention by at least enough people who they can actually help. And so he's right. Attention leads to business success. He says you'll make money if you're getting attention. That's true. Don't follow the normal rules of life. Do the opposite of what most people do. That's another thing, and I already said something about that, about not being average. Build a system. Okay, one thing that Andrew Tate has done, and he gets a lot of criticism for this, is this whole online empire that he's created, where he has these masterminds and he has this school and he has this war room. And for $1,000 you can participate, or for $49 a month you can go to get educated in different things about building a business. I've not gotten into it enough to know how much of that is legit. From what I hear, some of it is. But no matter what you think about it, he has built systems around him that generate income. They generate results. Are all the results good? I'm not sure of that. Are some of the results good? As far as like, are they honest, value for value? Actually, yeah, I think that they are. People genuinely want to know what he has to say, and they're genuinely willing to pay him for it. And he gives them what they're paying for. And that's business. And that's actually the way living works. When you live in society around other people, you trade to get the things that you need to live your life and for your family to live. So you build systems. My favorite way to build systems is by Sam Carpenter's book, Work the System, or The Systems Mindset. He has a couple of books. And I've shared this in other videos, and I'm going to do it here. You start with an overarching goal, a strategic objective. Mine would be to glorify God, and then my penultimate objective would be by living an amazing life. And then underneath that would be by raising a family and by running a successful ghostwriting business, making these YouTube videos, writing books and articles. I'm also a musician, so I have some business concerns in the music world. Those are all systems. I'm also a pastor and a church planter. A church is a system of subsystems. And so you have this objective to be the most productive you that you can be as a delegated image bearer of God, authority over the earth, over some portion of it. And then all your roles, each one of your roles is a system. And then you have a list of principles by which you govern those systems. And some of them are like the laws of God. Some of them are the laws of nature, which are also laws of God. Some of those are just your own laws. Like you just might decide like, hey, part of my system is I make videos every Tuesday. That's what I do. So the man has built systems. And if you haven't been intentional about your systems, then you have bad systems, because you have systems. You have built systems. If you think about it, everything in your life is working by a linear process where you start here, which goes to here, which goes to here, which goes to a result. There's a link down there if you want to get Sam Carpenter's book, Systems Mindset. You can get that at my website. But build systems. Next, I heard him say, go to college to learn what someone else did, but know that everything you're learning came from what that person invented. So once you go to college to learn something that someone else did, you're learning something that's really not going to be that useful. Newton did not go to college to learn Newtonian physics. He was in the world creating, and he came up with it. So everything that you could go to school to learn, the person that came up with it, or the people that came up with it, didn't study it. They invented it. So be someone that thinks towards inventing, not learning what's already been invented. Another thing that's real simple, he says, just do what's hard. He will always say being a man is hard. Now, I just made a video last week how I lead an effortless life. But on the other side of that is, in that, what's effortless is, you know that everything you're doing has meaning. But that actually doesn't mean that it's not hard to do that. The easiest thing to do is sit around on the couch and do nothing. So what's the opposite of that? Get out there and get after it. And once you know what's best based on your goals and based on what you actually know that you value, then go do it, no matter how hard it is. I write books, they're hard to write, but it's also very rewarding. But it's not as easy as just sitting on the couch and eating Cheetos and watching Netflix. I heard him say the quote from Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility. Think what you want to think about the guy. He thinks of it that way, that he's been given all this stuff. He's been given the capacity to get all these Bugattis and all these things. And so he's got to use his responsibility. Now, how you take responsibility, is between you and God and you and the truth. I mean, I don't agree with how he does it, but I agree with that he does it. With great power comes great responsibility, says Spider-Man's Uncle Ben, and he is correct. Control your mind. Now, this is something I've heard him say many times. Control your mind. You can't control anything if you can't control your mind. Now, listen, Christians, we have been taught over and over again by all kinds of preachers that it's impossible to control yourself. God's got to change you. There's a sense in which that's true, but there's another sense in which, on this certain plane, the one where God tells you things like, I hold out before you today, life and death, choose life, then you've got this brain that's here to decide what to do. Will I choose life today, or will I choose death today? Controlling your mind means, first thing I'm going to do is decide what to think about. That's biblical. Whatever's good, whatever's true, Philippians 4, think on these things. Well, what he doesn't say is choose to think. Some people don't. Some people get up and they're driven by appetites and emotions. But don't. Be driven by the truth. Be driven by the facts. Be driven by your intentional values and goals. And that starts here. Yes, control your mind. He's correct. We can all become happy and successful through development of character. Now, you probably agree that we should develop our character. And I think if that's the case, that's what matters, is that you develop your character and then things manifest as a result. I actually think that's probably true. You become the kind of person that thinks. You become the kind of person that controls his mind. You become the kind of person that gets to work. You become the kind of person that builds systems. You become the kind of person that loves people and cares for people. You become the kind of person that is always honest. You are going to manifest material evidence of the kind of person that you are, and it works both ways. Now, what you might want to dispute is that you're going to be happy, but I actually agree with him, because I think that the role of emotions that God has built into us is to help us know, are we moving towards life, or are we moving towards death? And the reason that we get messed up sometimes is because life can be so complicated that we stop tying our emotions to our actual reality. Are we actually winning? Then we should feel like it. Are we actually losing? Then we should feel like it. Depression and sadness correlates with death, and it correlates with losing. But if you keep a meta narrative, you keep the big picture in mind, and you set your hope on the revelation of Christ, then you will get sad when you lose. You won't be able to feel happy when you lose. But that sadness will only go down to a certain point, to where you know where the truth is, and you know you can always get back up and try again. You know that this loss equals wisdom for going forward. I'll just say this. I admire that he's a kickboxer and not afraid to get into physical confrontation, because I know myself to be kind of a coward, and I would really hope that when push came to shove, that I would be willing to put myself into harm's way. And I think that he's a person that will do that. So I'm always going to admire that. He says the words, resist slave mine. Andrew Tate says, examine all your beliefs, know how you got them, and if the things that you think are true. Slave mine would be, what does the culture tell me to think? What does the government tell me to think? What does Facebook tell me to think? What do my friends tell me to think? What does Andrew Tate tell me to think? I heard somebody else, and I can't remember his name, so forgive me, but somebody was saying, don't call Andrew Tate the top G, because he wouldn't even want you to call him the top G. He'd want you to call you the top G. Guess what? I agree with that. Christ is my top G. Under Christ, it's me. Even if I'm submitted to a pastor, or I'm submitted to a boss, some kind of authority, the government, whatever, nobody else has been given kingship of my life except for me, for God. He's the king of me. I'm the king of my life and domain. I'm the top G of my life, and you're the top G of your life. Andrew Tate says men and women are different. I agree. Men and women are different. One of the things, though, he says that he gets a lot of flack for is that his woman belongs to him. But I actually think there's a sense in which women want to feel that sort of protection and that sort of provided for. Not all women do. I've said this before. I'll say it this way. I was in a group of Christians, and it was mixed between very conservative when it came to gender roles, and very liberal with some feminists in the room. And I asked the question, is there a woman here who doesn't want a man who she feels she can be led by? And in that particular group of 20 people or so, not one single woman wanted to have a man that she couldn't feel led by. Not one single woman wanted to feel like she was in a relationship with a man she could lead. And then I asked the men, do you want a woman who can lead you? Not one single man, liberal or conservative, wanted a woman who could lead him in a marriage relationship. So there's something baked in about that. Now, obviously, we're not getting into all this other stuff with the gender debate right now, but to say that I agree with Andrew Tate that men and women are different, yes, I agree with Andrew Tate that men and women are not the same. He does say that women are sovereign individuals. And then when he talks about a woman belonging to him, he's talking about his woman, and giving another woman the freedom to say, I don't want to be with you. I don't want to be with a man who wants me to feel like I belong to him. So in that sense, yeah, I mean, I agree with them. Women are sovereign individuals for sure. If you have any kind of leadership over your wife to which she is not a sovereign individual, an autonomous individual over her life, even if she chooses to follow you as her husband, then you're probably spiritually abusing her because you're making her less than human, and that wouldn't be right. Now, does Andrew Tate actually do that? He may actually do that. I'm talking about what he says versus what he does. So you'll have to decide, do you think that he actually does that, or is he just talking? But whatever he says, I agree with about that. The other thing is, I just think he's very much against someone being a victim. That you've got to take control of your life. You cannot let yourself be a victim. You very well may be a victim. Maybe he was a victim of the Romanian government. I don't know. We won't know yet until that investigation comes out. But whatever has happened to you, if you wallow in victimhood, if you identify with that, and that's your primary identity, you will go nowhere. It is not what you were put on this earth to think of yourself. You're put on this earth to think of yourself as a person with agency, a person with power, a person who can do things, who can think of things, who can decide things, who can take action and bring forth creation in the world. The last thing that I'm going to say that I would say is admirable about Andrew Tate is that whatever he thinks, he says. At least it seems like it. At least this character that he has formed, that's how he is. He doesn't seem to care what other people think. I know I'm going to get some heat for even making this video. I'll be honest with you. I kind of care about it. I sort of do want everybody to like me, but I also value the courage to be disliked. Hey, another book that you can get if you go to christianman.me and click on the link below, because it's one of my favorite books. So I sell it. But that's about it. There are probably some more things you can think of. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Come at me, bro, if you got a problem with it. I know if I say it, I have to be willing to take the heat. But again, that's what I told my sons, and that's what I'm telling you. And until I see something different, that's my take on Andrew Tate. The one thing I really hope you'll do today is subscribe to the channel. I've got some other things I'm excited, some more videos I'm excited to make. If you've not seen the ones we made before, I'd love for you to go back and check those out. But what I'd really love is for you to take control of your life as an image bearer of God and go out there and create something and have an amazing day.